Again, welcome to the Benster Show, and today I'm so excited. I screamed my lungs out when I heard that Nhlanhla Lux was joining us in studio, and we are so grateful. We are talking about foreign affairs, and we are honored to have Mr. Nhlanhla Lux. Mr. Nhlanhla Lux, thank you very much, and welcome to the Benster Show.
Look, it's a big honor. Thank you. Thanks to all the viewers for taking the time to listen to the show with me here.
Yeah, sure. And your face is all over.
I hope for good reasons.
It is.
Okay.
It is, because I think you are the voice of whoever you represent.
Sure.
And the ideologies that you live by and stand by.
Sure.
So I had to also watch a few of your videos. I mean, so that I can get background and your perspective. And so that I don't have to repeat whatever that was covered, maybe on another platform, But the first time or let me say, Nhlanhla Lux was introduced to me, I think it was when there was this unrest in July. And I think you were protecting the Maponya Mall.
Sure.
And then I saw this guy, this gentleman, who was showing on the screen that he said, you know what, this looting nonsense is not going to happen here. We are here to protect the Maponya Mall. And I also believe that there was a backlash after that with people who said, no, who is this Nhlanhla Lux? Nhlanhla Lux is protecting the interest of the whites.
Yeah.
I think you have seen that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was the time I saw Nhlanhla Lux.
Sure.
Me as a citizen.
Sure.
Because whatever happens, it happens to all of us.
Certainly, sure.
And later on, then I saw Nhlanhla Lux now being associated with Operation Dudula.
Sure.
And I must say this, had it not been for Nhlanhla Lux, I would not have known there's anything called Operation Dudula.
You and millions of people in South Africa.
Me and millions of people in South Africa. So can you please tell us, in fact, let us start looking at that incident when you guys had to go protect Maponya Mall.
Sure.
You know that our political dynamics, they always portray color, because I think that's what has been selling for so long.
Sure.
And some people said not even that Maponya Mall belongs to Maponya. There are others, stakeholders and stuff like that. And it's not even uplifting business for the local people. So, I mean, what is your take on that one?
Look, let me start by saying that anyone who had a backlash with me leading the forces to protect Maponya Mall is probably amongst the most ignorant in the continent, not just in the country. Okay. When you talk about Richard Maponya, who is behind the reason that we have a mall in Soweto called Maponya Mall, you're speaking to someone who went against the economic norms during the apartheid system to achieve economic success far beyond many could even imagine. Okay. You talk about someone who owned horses before you and I could even go to Durban July. We just think horses, we think Durban July. Richard Maponya had horses that are racing at the peak of apartheid. Okay. And all these businesses supported the liberation struggle.
Okay, let me tell you, I did not grow up in Soweto, but I grew up in a township. And townships share almost the same DNA.
100%,
so,
sure.
And also where I come from Mpumalanga,
sure,
which was Transvaal back then.
Sure.
Do you understand? And we had so many struggles and uprisings within my community.
Sure.
I'm from Petal in Mpumalanga.
Sure.
Mpumalanga is Petal was a small township.
Sure.
But a lot was happening there.
Sure.
Fighting the apartheid government back in the day.
Sure.
And when I was a kid, I've seen what you call coffins. You know, back then, seeing a coffin was bizarre.
We'd all stop. Sometimes you kneel until the hearse passes by.
We
had mad respect for that.
Life.
Sure, yeah.
But whenever a comrade back in the day, whenever a comrade was shot, comrades were not using like your hearse or something.
Sure.
They were carrying the coffin themselves
Sure.
to the graveyard.
Oh, yes, certainly.
That is what I witnessed as a child.
Sure.
But when you say, in fact, I don't know why we have to talk about him, but I mean, you just mentioned that he owned horses back then and stuff like that. A person who was that successful back then was ostracized from the community and thought to be imbimbi.
Okay, let's correct that then. I'm happy that you and I have an opportunity to correct the viewers, not to inherit the wrong definitions.
Sure.
So a person like Richard Maponya, alongside Bo Ntate Nkuna and many other businessmen, they actually were the heartbeat of the revolution, of the struggle, the liberation struggle, because everything required money. Where do you think we internally got the resources to fight apartheid? Who used to fund the camps of our people in Angola? In who?
It is never spoken about.
100%.
It is not out in the public.
So now I'm telling you, people like Richard Maponya,
Who
managed to put together business and economic infrastructure in the township when it was not fashionable, took most of their money and contributed towards the struggle that way. Some people contributed by just singing. They never carried a gun, but they were able to take thousands of people, control them with song and singing. And some people were just contributing through strategy. This is what we do because I've got knowledge of the terrain. Terrain just means the area. Some people were just, Abu Sainova, like, give me the AK, I'll go and shoot first. So there was a lot of contribution from different angles. So I just want to wrap it up for Richard quick. So people like Richard then contributed so much, and it's unwritten. With their own resources. His horse, by the way, that we speak about was called Another Color. If you look at Another Color, it's just ANC. So he knew how to break economic barriers and open up our minds, and if he can do it, we all certainly can. And you saw more businessmen rise in that era because the system wanted us to focus on a very small thing called movement. We couldn't move to Sandton freely, so we fought, and we couldn't study. The students at the time, TAT led a march saying the students don't want to study in Afrikaans. So these people were smart. They gave you things to think about, to fight about. So what they're not talking about, people like Richard could realize, and even went in and penetrated and competed successfully, so much that they sponsored the common fight that the people were fighting for. And fast forward years later, someone like Richard then says, I'm building a mall in Soweto, the biggest mall that we have in Soweto. And people don't know the history, the real history at least. And when you have looting, you want to loot that mall. And when we protect it, people want to say that it's white owned. No one listening has ever seen proof of whether that mall is white owned or not. So because some people are suspecting it to be white owned, we mustn't protect it. Now today is an opportunity for you to understand what I was personally protecting as the leader of the people, right? I was protecting the 5,000 jobs that Maponya provides in Soweto. 5,000. So people can tell me all they want. I had people lining up in thousands to come and thank me. Not that it matters, but it was overwhelming because I didn't even realize how deep that impact was. People go Maponya Mall, go Jablani Mall and other malls that were looted, Protea Mall and so forth. People struggled. Food security was an issue in Soweto, except for the communities around Maponya Mall. Bread went three times the price. Just to get bread, people would take a taxi from Protea and go to Maponya Mall. The realities of our people, if your cousin from Mpumalanga sends you an e-wallet because you're running out of petrol of 200 Rand, do you know how much it was then worth for you to get the 200? 150, 350. Because the 150 is for you to jump onto a taxi to go to Southgate, if not Maponya Mall, to take out 200. So that started becoming the unfortunate reality of our people, and people don't understand that. So when people say what they want to say, I don't get shifted or bothered because I'm a soldier at heart. I just pick I know if this is the mission, we must complete the mission. What happens on the sides has nothing to do with me. People love you, people hate you. Sometimes the ones that love you will wake up hating you, and the next day they're like, oh, but we actually love him. I'm not doing it for the love or hate. I'm doing it to complete the mission. And that's why, as young as we are, we complete missions.
Well, I mean, again, with the looting, since I told you I grew up, I mean,
Sure.
what you call in a township.
Sure.
There is one thing that struck me about our people, is that yes, they can protest,
Sure.
but the protests were leaving devastation within our own dwellings.
Certainly.
And I remember, my township and town, right? The distance is like 2 kilometers.
Sure.
And you could walk from the township to town. But whenever there was a protest, the protest would only be within the township, and the burning of properties would happen here in the townships. And I remember, uma bekunalento abayibiza ngesiyanyova or else as Gichema.
Sure.
Sometimes they were not announcing to the community. People will go to town and come back with some plastics full of grocery. Bathatha amaqanda during isikhathi sephem baphohloza amaqanda la ekhanda lomuntu. I mean, just to say ungathengi edrobheni. But that was inflicting more pain to the very inflicted.
Sure. I agree with you.
Yeah. So I mean, what you guys did by protecting your own area was preventing this kind of decay that I am talking about.
Sure.
Because, I mean, when you look even in South Africa, we know that we've got a huge culture of protest. I mean, for us to be heard, or people believe that for them to be heard, I mean, they need to burn cars and burn tires on the street.
Sure.
But whose infrastructure gets compromised?
100%.
It is ours.
Sure.
So now let us learn about your relationship and Dudula. How did you join Dudula? Because until today, I can see Dudula is trending today and is trending for something else. And I know that you are no longer part, but I mean, I think you are here to speak for yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, how did you join Dudula and how were you introduced to Dudula?
So Dudula was more of an idea than a real thing when some of us were mobilized to be part of it. I remember the first meeting that I addressed at Dudula had 6-7 people. And I then went back to say that because Dudula, at least the idea of Dudula is we share a common vision with it, to say that we need to address undocumented foreigners in South Africa, because that alone is a crime. And I'm big on people being mindful of the law. That's at the center of everything that I do. So amongst the people that were there, I was the best suited to lead the breathing into life of this thing called Dudula.
Okay.
I was already the president of Soweto Parliament at the time. I'm leading millions of people in Soweto.
Okay.
And to grow Dudula for me was literally an SMS away, WhatsApp away. Okay. It wasn't a big job. It was a walk in a park.
Okay.
And that's why you know Dudula, because of us, you see. So
because of
because of me. So
yeah.
So what I then did, I then took my constituency that's existing, and I said, we're going to follow Dudula. Because before Dudula, we had programs years before Dudula, months before Dudula, weeks before Dudula started in actually last year, just under a year. We already had programs that are addressing undocumented foreigners in Soweto, but legally, within the boundaries of the law. Ours was never to hate all foreigners and be extreme about it and be unnecessary about it. Ours was to be intelligent about it, because like I said earlier, if there's a mission, you understand the mission, you complete and achieve this mission. If the mission is, if we think that in the delivery space, if you order McDonald's online, the person that brings it is 10 out of 10 times always a foreign guy. And when you go further, the foreign guy doesn't have documents. The foreign guy is on a scooter without a license. But you and I are expected to be on the road with a license. How many fines do we get? You can even be arrested if you can't produce your identity as a South African. If you don't have a license to prove in a roadblock, they can arrest you and keep you behind bars until someone comes and says that this is who you are, so that they can, from an accountability point of view, have you fined for it.
Yeah.
You see? So, but some people are living without accountability in our country. So I thought that in our space where I have jurisdiction over leadership, I'm going to correct it. Not only sing about it, not only complain about it, not only even correct it in such a way that I'm not trying to get this poor guy killed on the bike. Because I don't know his story. I don't know why he's here.
Yeah.
All I know is that he has to follow the law when he's here.
Okay, can I please ask you this question? Instead of perhaps dealing with the people who are here, why can't we deal more with the government who should prevent such?
Yeah. So, in everything that you've seen me do, you and all the viewers right now, you've never seen me leading a narrative with my mouth or physically leading a march to go attack foreign people. You've never.
No.
You've never. If you see me, please post it right now. If you've ever seen that or you've got record of it. You always see me going to government institutions, putting pressure on them, going to corporate South Africa, saying, but why aren't you employing South Africans in their numbers, and giving them the data and the intelligence collected, say, we know you employ these people that are undocumented because it's cheap labor. The law has certain minimum requirements of how you pay a South African, and because you're capitalists, you just care for the profit and you don't care for the social consequence of excluding the South African, prioritizing the undocumented foreigner. So you've never seen us going to, because if you want to fight the foreigners, we know where they sleep. I can go to Deep Sloth, I can go to Chicken Farm, I can start a war. 2 seconds. But that's not what we've done. We've always put pressure on government. That's why I considered what we've always done as a pressure group, so government can start doing the right thing. Before you heard us lead this conversation of foreigners, maybe to be specific, of undocumented foreigners, you never knew Aaron Motsoaledi's face as young people. The viewers, maybe you might have, and myself, but the viewers didn't know Kimang Aaron Motsoaledi. Then after we get into departments and shake them up a bit, then the Minister of Home Affairs shows up, he's Aaron Motsoaledi. Then the young people can put the name to the face. But before that, so I knew that the job is done, because now the young people, South Africa in its millions, are starting to understand, are starting to see it. We're starting to speak about it, because I believe that dialogue is a first point of departure to solving any problem.
And so I was actually troubled recently when I saw that AfriForum was deploying its own people to guard our borders. And I thought, something is not right in this country. I think somebody might look at it as a good initiative. It is a good initiative. But South Africa is a sound state. And it has its own departments to deal with affairs, even what you call our national key points. Then when you have an organization, right now as I'm sitting here, I don't know whether AfriForum is a political party or it's just an NGO or something. I don't know exactly. But they took an initiative to go guard our what you call our borders. So isn't that an outcry to the government to say, you guys are not doing your job?
Yeah, it is. And whatever AfriForum is, because I also don't know what AfriForum is, but whatever AfriForum is, right? Because what's on paper and what you do can be different. And when you ask me, what are you? And I say, I'm a business, or I'm an NGO. But in real life, what I practice might not be. So I don't know what they are from registration to action. But all I know is that I'm not going to allow myself and others that I at least lead to inherit the racial difference. Because that's a card that the politicians play.
Yeah.
If you have...
But I think it's dying now.
It's dying, and I'm happy that it's dying.
It is dying.
Yeah, we must have a mass funeral for this nonsense that they.
Can I tell you now that the racial difference is dying? What is rising? It is now replaced with the foreign affairs.
100%. Yeah, I agree with you.
Sure.
But now, AfriForum, for me, how I see it, I see South Africans at the borders doing what government's supposed to be doing, and assisting as active citizens, because I'd be a hypocrite if I say they are sending their own people. Who are their own people? Then I'd be feeding into that.
Them?
Yeah. So
with what?
100%. So instead of us asking negatively, I would rather start by saying thank you, because they could be in the Bahamas having cocktail, they could be at home watching the problem, but they are amongst the few South Africans that went there to risk their lives, because it's hard at the borders. I've manned the borders before. I've manned the borders before AfriForum went to the borders. We were at the borders the festive season before that.
Were you there under the umbrella, Dudula, or individually?
No, before We were there as the Soweto Parliament, young people of Soweto Parliament made a call to say, instead of having this festive season, chilling and drinking, how's about we go to the borders and we actually see what the hell's going on there, and we actually see how we can contribute. We came back with information enough. When we speak with government, we're speaking from a point of information. And we're not just speaking because we think we know. We were there. We were manning the borders. We know how big the birds are. We know the ecosystem there. We know the natural habitat there. We know what snakes are there. We know if people are going to go the next time, they must have what type of medication, because we understand what it's like to be at the borders. We understand the threats, the risks that come with it. We understand the guns that the people use if they want to, if they're going to be shooting back at you. So we've got information that government probably also has, but I don't know why it's not being used. But that shows you that if we did it, AfriForum also does it, that means South Africans are super active citizens, willing to help this government to take the country forward. That's how I see it.
So, what I've seen, I crossed several borders of this country, and each border is different from the next.
Yeah.
There was a time, I think Mugabe was still the president of Zimbabwe for the first time. I crossed to Zimbabwe. Then we used Bait Bridge. There's a lot of chaos going on there.
Yeah.
And I also use Oshuk when I go to Swaziland.
Sure.
I've used Oshuk 1,000 times.
Sure.
But when I got to Bait Bridge, I'm telling you, it's something else. I've never seen such a thing. Some people, when they cross from South Africa to Zimbabwe, you can spend 2 or 3 days at the border.
Sure.
Before you can cross. Then what do you think of the state of our borders?
We should be having better admin at this time. It's 2022. We operating on analog. It shouldn't take you 3 days for you to cross a border.
Yeah, for you to
because it encourages people not to do it the right way. That's why some people just go through the fence.
Yeah, sure.
Because it's unreasonable. I mean,
sure.
Imagine I've got a truck full of goods.
Yes.
Let's speak business now.
Yeah.
I've got a truck full of goods.
Yeah.
Goods that can expire anytime.
True.
Perhaps my truck is a fridge at the back, but the fridge can malfunction. And then I've got goods that are worth $500,000 to $1 million that I need to go deliver at the next point. And as the logistics company, I take liability for it because I collected them in a certain state. I must deliver them in a certain state. And the incompetence of government then affects my business. Who will then fit that bill of $1 million? Certainly not government. So, and then we complain that Africa is not growing, South Africa or Zimbabwe economy is not growing. It's not growing because we are not improving how we do things. Because there's a ripple effect. We're a piece of the puzzle that completes the whole picture. Sure. If I don't do the right thing, you don't do the right thing, government doesn't do the right thing, the police take bribes, it all becomes a big picture of a mess. And then you open business, it doesn't thrive. And you're like, what can I do? There's nothing you can do if I also do not change my attitude and how I do things, as much as I may not know you. You see? So for me, it's disgusting that we've got borders such as Bait Bridge. Let me tell you, it's chaos, but it's organized chaos. They profit from that chaos. They make millions from that chaos. Yeah, sure. That's why they allow that damn chaos.
And dirty business is happening
sure,
there
sure,
because I was in a bus. I said, I'm not going to drive to Zimbabwe. I normally, I wouldn't like to drive to a foreign country. There are so many complications when you get to a foreign country and you're using a foreign registration. And then I took a bus. We stayed there for hours and buses kept on coming, trucks and cars and pedestrians and stuff like that. And you have people who come inside the bus and collect passports. Bring all the passports and stuff. And passports go before the person. I mean, do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, already so that's a problem.
When a passport is collected before you present your face, I mean, something is not right.
I would never give anyone my passport.
Something is not right.
Yeah, sure.
You see. So then, I think we also need to speak about the relationship between South Africa and Zimbabwe, because I think it is a time-ticking bomb.
Yeah, I think it's already exploded. People just haven't seen it. It's like if there's a volcanic eruption, you don't need to see it for it to be true. Okay. By the time you feel it, it's too hot, And by the time you see it, it's too late. You're going to die.
How can we help the situation, especially,
yeah.
in fact, before we say South Africa and Zimbabwe, let's talk about the people.
Sure.
People in Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
And people in South Africa. We all know the outcry of the people in South Africa. In fact, I was talking to another gentleman who is from Zimbabwe saying, in South Africa, they do talk a lot about foreigners.
Yeah.
But at the back of their minds, or always verbally so, they talk about Zimbabweans first.
Yeah, 100%.
They complain about Zimbabweans,
yeah,
and complain about Nigerians.
Yeah, and now the 100. But look, I agree with you. It doesn't matter if I add more countries to that. But the reason is you can't complain about guys from Cameroon, because the last time I checked in Soweto, you don't have a lot of people from Cameroon. People complain, will talk about or will feel what's immediate to the environment. As far people will reason as far as their hand can touch, and you can certainly touch a Zimbabwean in Tembisa and Alex in Soweto. As far as their eyes can see, you can certainly see them in those places. As far as, so you don't find Chinese people in their numbers in Soweto. That's why people say, yeah, but why don't you speak about the Chinese that are undocumented in the country? That's a national issue. How's about the politicians start doing their job? Because we are activists. We speak and fix problems that are immediate to our communities. Deep Kloof doesn't have electricity. We fight for electricity so that our people can have electricity. If there's a problem in the community, we act quick and come up with solutions for it. We're not a political party that's there to provide solutions to even communities we don't know. Okay. You see? So let's speak about solutions for Zimbabwe. I said to some Zimbabwean guys, instead of you trying to have a big mouth and saying, South Africans, why have big courage and say, South Africans, how can you help us fighting those monsters there? Because we can't have millions of people running away from the country. We can't have that situation. I will stand up tomorrow morning and go close that Zimbabwean embassy if the young people of Zimbabwe are ready to have that fight. Because once we close the embassy as South Africans, it affects their international relations. We will make sure that that ambassador, whoever he is, does not ever use that building, not in our country, because of what he's doing to the young people and everyone else in Zimbabwe. The young people of Zimbabwe must then also take it within themselves to go fight for their rights. Voting time, they must make sure they're out there in numbers voting. In between the voting times, they must make sure they're out there fighting for everyday justice.
But elections don't seem to help Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
And, I think on every election in Zimbabwe, you hear stories of votes were rigged,
Yeah.
And then it becomes a problem because it seems like ZANU-PF is there to stay and to stay forever.
Look, young people are smart. Young people are coding. Young people are developing systems. You can start having online voting just amongst young people to give the world and your neighboring countries a little bit of insight, data, where people's minds are. If I see that ZANU-PF is not being voted for on these platforms, and that ZANU-PF is not being voted for, and let's say IEC, we also develop systems as young people that make sure that IEC is not bought by the Zimbabwean government. I'm not suggesting it is, but I'm saying the young people need to do more. We need to be there and count the votes with them. Yeah. Invite us from South Africa, because you know that we've been doing this at least fair enough since 1994. How's about not only the officials, they are bribable, those people. I'm saying it on record, don't tell me about officials. Invite the ordinary people of South Africa to come and help the ordinary people of Zimbabwe to come up with strategies on how they Zimbabweans can win their country back. Because right now they're not in their country, they've lost their country.
They have lost their country.
Yeah, they've lost it.
And some of them don't like being outside Zimbabwe, because Zimbabweans are also scattered all over. They're not only here in South Africa.
Sure.
They are scattered all over. So I have this question that do you think Ramaphosa's administration is doing enough in helping the foreign crisis in this country?
The problem is that we are hypocrites as South Africans, myself included. If Ramaphosa starts being seen giving time and resources towards the problems of Zimbabwe, we're going to remind him that, you're the president of South Africans, you've got problems here. Yeah. When he doesn't do it, we still say that Ramaphosa doesn't do enough. So he's on thin ice. He's in a very tough place, but he's his own man. He must take decisions on how he wants to balance the two. But certainly, if I was him, I will put South Africans first in South Africa, which means that I'm not going to tolerate the fact that you've got problems. That's why you're giving us problems. So I'd literally say that I'm raising my hand up. It's like if we're at an auction, maybe just sitting now, and we have the top 100 brilliant kids in the world in South Africa who've passed their matric, but they don't have money to go to university. And you and I have a little bit of change. It's our responsibility. We can raise our hand up and say, listen, out of the 100, my capacity, I can make sure that 5 of them go to school. I don't know about these guys. And then you take 5, someone else takes 4, turns out until they all sorted, they have an opportunity to go to school. But there's no way that one person can take all those kids to university. It compromises my well-being. It compromises my kids' opportunities. Then I must take from my kids now and give them. So Ramaphosa should be seen saying that with this problem in Zimbabwe, I'm willing, as the leader of South Africa, to accommodate that particular problem in this way. Right now, there's nothing. That's why there's no definition to the problem. There's no solution defined for the problem. That's why people are rising and doing as they please. And that's why we are fighting ourselves, because the leaders are not making it clear. What's the mission? What's the plan? What's the vision?
And so when the leaders are not making it clear,
yeah,
the big question is, do we have law and order in this country?
South Africa has big law and order. Majority of the people that undermine our law and order generally are not South Africans. I'm not saying South Africans don't commit crime. We commit lots of crime. Yes. When you go to the township, the Nyope boys steal taps. I don't see a Nigerian stealing taps. That's a crime. So I'm not saying South Africans don't. Yeah, but if you look at violent crime, the CIT, cash in transit, CIT, the last 10 years of that particular crime. Every time people are shot by the police and they're interrogated or caught, they always foreign. And when you look at them, they undocumented foreigners. So it's not my opinion. I'm telling you what the stats are saying and what the reports are saying.
Then
you see?
It goes back to government to say, whose fault is it? Because I think the government must take responsibility.
No, I'm with you.
Yes,
I'm with you.
Until government takes responsibility, then nothing will happen. Yeah. You can never have, okay, you say I've got a lion, but your lion is toothless and clawless. Do you understand? Okay. So we've got law and order, but does it have its claws?
Okay, here we go. If there's a boy called Mark rapes a girl, we then catch Mark. Mark, why did you rape this girl? Because she had a miniskirt on. That's the most lousiest excuse I've ever heard, Mark. True. Then what do we say? Mark is raping because we don't have law and order. There is law and order. Mark is raping because Mark is sick in his head. Mark is not respecting the laws of the country. So we have a problem when people, because you can't bribe the Act of 1946 or you can't bribe the law itself. No, you bribe the people that are representing the laws, law enforcement, being the police.
Law enforcement question.
Being the police. Yeah. So maybe then we must just interrogate what the real problem is. The real problem is that South Africans are not patriotic. They don't love their country the way they're supposed to be, because we don't get taught to love our country.
Why is that? Are we somehow brainwashed?
We are brainwashed. You know, institutions such as the Human Rights Commission and many other institutions that are chapter, look, it's a chapter 9 institution of, right? Yeah. Most of such institutions are captured. They are captured so that we are easy on other things. You know, let me put it this way. People in the world plan for 20 to 100 years. South Africans plan for today and next week. I'm telling you. And this is because the education system as it is a captured system. So we are conditioned to be the human beings that we are, which is borderline useless, myself included. What our education system is not in line with our economy. There's a kid right now in Europe in conditions that are cold, where there's no minerals underground, but they've been taught mining, bro. They've been taught mining. That means you and I and everyone else in this room who went through the South African education system. Yeah. Do you get taught mining? No. It's a central pillar of our economy. Yeah. Do you get taught agriculture? No. It's a central pillar of our economy.
Even real estate.
Real estate. The things that run our economy are not taught in schools. That means that they're preparing you that when you start school at the age of 7, and when you leave school, let's just call it a 20-year program. When you leave school after 20 years of being conditioned, you are conditioned for nonsense. Yeah. But and then we start importing skills and people to come and run our own economy. That's why you and I can't compete with Zimbabweans for small time and part of the economy.
skilled.
Electricity, electric
They're
jobs,
skilled, like,
plumbing.
they're skilled.
Why isn't plumbing
Yeah.
a subject in school?
Have you been to Jewel Street? Do you know the street?
I've been to Jewel Street
Yeah.
20 years ago, 10 years ago, and probably as recent as last month.
And what are the differences you've seen at Jewel Street now?
Heartbreaking differences. Heartbreaking differences. When you get lost in the CBD, you have to ask a foreigner for directions.
True.
Yeah. Before I used to give directions. I used to jump off. I'm telling you, I used to jump off Kopri and navigate myself to North.
Yeah.
Just as a kid. I'm talking like 10 years old.
Yeah.
Now I probably wouldn't make it back home. I'd probably be killed on the way there. And I'm not exaggerating. And if you think I am, it's your problem that you oblivious to the fact. You just think that you know. Go there. If you think you can go to Jules with your iPhone and we used to do it. Kanti 3310. Nek vaka 3310 ya kanti kudlala snake. Ki cross the street. Kudlala snake till I get to my next stop and go to school or come back.
Sure.
You can never do it right now. You're lying to me. You can never take your phone out in the CBD here in Johannesburg from Bree to North.
Yeah.
Actually, we must put
From
it.
Bree to North
Survivor.
is like a 10-year journey.
10, 20 years.
20 years journey.
I want Survivor America to come here, and it must be one of the activities. Take your phone out from Bree to North.
And now, Nhlanhla, I heard you say you are out of politics. I just want that narrative. What is this narrative you bringing, or theory? What is it?
Look, we non-partisan, non-political, meaning that we don't subscribe to politics or party politics. Yeah. So if we're not EFF, ANC, DA, none of those people.
Isn't what you do in politics?
It's not political. It's activism. Let me tell you, Mandela wasn't a politician. He was an activist. 1994, he turned into a politician because he had to be part of that system. Oh. Winnie Mandela was never a politician; he was an activist. And then when when you give up your power and join a political party, you are then becoming a politician. Yes. So I'm not part of any political party. Okay.
Have you ever been part of a political party?
No, I don't do those things.
Like all your life, you've never associated or
association.
Yourself
look, I will be lying if I say no association, because all of us who grew up in townships like you and I, as soon as you start knowing how to speak and they see there's leadership, this one must be in the ANC youth league, this one, or this one must join. We didn't have any other room for expressing our leadership outside politics, and that's why platforms such as Soweto Parliament, nothing to do with politics. We actually embrace absolutely everyone, and we make sure that the community is united in solving the problems of the community.
Okay, please tell us about Soweto Parliament. Yeah. Now that we're learning about it,
sure.
And what I'm liking is that you are contrasting that Soweto Parliament was there before you associated yourself with Dudula.
Sure.
And none of us know that.
Well, Dudula associated itself with us.
Oh,
there's a big difference.
Oh.
Yeah, because I gained very little from being part of Dudula. It gained millions of people knowing it from being part of us.
Who founded Dudula?
Dudula was founded by various people, ideology, thinking, do you think it's not an invented name?
Another question is, because you were part of it, and I'm so sorry that I have to ask you about it.
No problem, sure.
Yeah, but where is Dudula? Because Dudula is like an unknown entity. If I were to say, which is given a face to Dudula.
Yeah.
Recently here in Chipistown, we are here at Maboneng, and Maboneng is Chipistown. So I overheard that a group of Dudula guys were going from one shop to another, telling foreigners that we're giving you a deadline by Friday, you must be gone and stuff like that.
Is that lawful?
Is that how you were operating?
Never. You'll see all these things probably now, not under my leadership. You'll never see nonsense under my leadership. You see success under my leadership.
Were you the president of Dudula?
I was the president of Soweto Parliament, and look, let me take you one step back. Look, I am the president of Soweto Parliament. Even that time, I was the president of Soweto Parliament. My job when we sat down was, I said, we'll grow Dudula. I'll use my resources, my networks, my effort to grow this thing called Dudula. We then adopted Dudula as a program in Soweto Parliament. So in other words, we don't have to duplicate programs. So all the programs we're doing around undocumented foreigners, let's allow Dudula to do it so that we can have extra focus on other things. By definition, Dudula is military veterans and umphakathi. That's the definition of Dudula. Google it, check it out. Even the shirts that Dudula dingweti, military veterans and umphakathi with AK-47s crossing, two of them, which symbolizes that the forces of the community, the forces of military veterans are coming together to address this particular situation. My job was, Lux, because you are the president of Soweto Parliament, already leading people in their millions. Can you help us mobilize for more people across the country, ordinary people from communities, to understand Dudula and perhaps lobby them into it? And then what they will do as military veterans is to lobby more military veterans. People who train in Angola coming here saying, you remember when they were supposed to fight for the country, but the negotiations happened and they didn't fight. So they scattered all across the country. Saying those people must come out because this agenda is also a dangerous one. You've got guys that are armed, that are willing to protect the illegal activities that they're doing and kill people. I've seen it. I've buried people. So moving forward, you saw me delivering on that mandate. That's why you know Dudula. That's why everybody else knows Dudula, the average people, because I was doing a lot. So I even did that mixed combat thing, mixing normal wear and camouflage, because it's also a symbol of veterans, military veterans coming together with the community.
Yes.
So I you see, we have an education background on marketing and placing of products and whatever. So I knew what I had to do for a mental shift for it to appeal. Even in my language, I came up with phrases that I forced to commercialize. Like, I'm Commander Morning, I'm going to make it like a thing now, so that the young people get attracted to it. And when I start speaking Nhlanhla Lux, Commander Morning, they know exactly what time it is.
Yes.
So all those things, do you think that the old dinosaurs from who were military veterans would come up with those things?
No.
This exactly.
No,
So I'm not saying I'm the founder of language. I'm saying I knew how to commercialize certain things and push for them to be relevant and prevalent in people's minds. When you wake up and you hear Commander Morning, it makes you think Dudula Lux. You see, so I knew what to do with those type of things, and I did exactly that, right? And it worked wonders.
Do you have regrets being part of Dudula?
I don't have personal regrets, but I with the growth of realizing that I might have led and breathed life into this rhinoceros, this big animal that I'm now leaving, because some people want to perhaps politicize it and want to now use it to fight all foreigners, which was never the case. It worries me, but I'm not worried, because if I knew what to do in creating it, that means the blueprint is in my genes. That means if I have to be on the other side fighting this monster, or this dragon, not to blow fire on everything and everyone, I'll certainly do that. If there's one person that is not scared of grabbing the bull by its horns, is me. I will make sure that if Dudula, they think that it's right now, they think they're going to have a war with all foreigners, which in essence means we must fight all the embassies. They must all pack and go home because they're foreigners. The French embassy, American embassy, whatever embassy. Yeah. And it also says that all our ambassadors across the world must pack and come back home. Yeah, if that's the case.
It doesn't really make sense. I think that is ignorance.
It's big ignorance.
Yeah, because people must understand that there is a foreign relations.
100%.
And South Africa is not an island in the world. Mm. We need, every state and every country, but we also need to protect ourselves.
Yes. I'm happy you said it. You said it perfect. So if Dudula does the right thing, I'll support it. Even from where I am, I'll support it.
Would you say Dudula was hijacked?
I think there's a lot of forces that people are going to realize later. It's not my position to say it now, because I'll then have to invest time in improving a lot of things, and I'd rather take my time and help people with it. But all I know is that because of where I am and having in-depth knowledge of what's going on, I am ready. I am ready to help those who might possibly be victimized by this force that I was part of, and know how it moves. I'll be ready to help absolutely even the government. I'll help the government wherever I need to. But if Dudula does the right thing, I'll be the first to also support it and help it. But if it does the wrong thing, I'll be the first to fight it.
That's
simple.
beautiful.
Sure.
So Nhlanhla, with Soweto Parliament, I need us to contrast the policies of Soweto Parliament and its formation. I would love us to know more about Soweto Parliament. And I'm glad today I know that Soweto Parliament was there before. I mean,
ages.
Dudula, associated themselves with you.
Ages before. Maybe let's do this so that we're not sounding like we're just politicking and we just talk like everyone else talks, out here. How's about you do your next podcast at our next parliament sitting? That's in just over 60 days now. I'm challenging you. Yeah, it doesn't matter who you're talking to. Talk to them while we're busy with Parliament, and then take a few people that are working out of Parliament. Talk to them and have an in-depth one. It's an invite. Yeah,
we are being invited.
Sure.
to your next sitting.
Next sitting. It's in 60 to 70 days from now.
60 to 70 days.
Because it's every 3 months, and we just 2 weeks done.
Who's going to keep us posted?
I'll leave all details. The Secretary General of Soweto Parliament is Nana, and Nana is brilliant at communication. That's actually who she's responsible for me being here and anywhere else actually on time. Sure.
Because we'd love to know. I'm also worried about the branding of it as Soweto Parliament, because I believe that Soweto Parliament can render its services even outside the borders of Soweto. And then how are you going to balance that? Because once I hear Soweto Parliament, then I'm thinking, oh no, this thing is dealing with the affairs of Soweto and nothing outside.
I am a strong believer that black communities are not short of leadership. People must stop imposing themselves as leaders in communities that they don't even know. Now, we want to encourage communities to lead themselves. Our motto is for the people, by the people, and the people shall govern.
And the people shall govern.
The people shall govern. That's our...
That's a political statement.
No, it's not. It was done by people that were fighting for the liberation struggle, not politicians.
It as a political statement.
It's unfortunate.
It was promoted by them.
100%. You and I just went through how bad our education system is, how others are being taught about the future of this place while we are not. So
we know nothing about
so I said we, meaning myself included, we're conditioned to know nonsense. And that's why we think statements such as the people shall govern is political. It's not. It's historical. People who died without... Do you think Hector Peterson, when he died, he was part of the ANC or the EFF or the DA? Never. The young man died as an activist knowing that he's fighting for himself and others.
And so the question again is, do you see Soweto Parliament extending its services outside?
So we are already extending our services, and the best way we do that is there's now something called Alexandra Parliament. As far as in Mpumalanga, actually, there's how many parliaments in Mpumalanga now? There's 2 parliaments. One is in Nhlanhla Parliament.
I know Nhlanhla.
Yeah, there's Nhlanhla Parliament.
Yeah. Shout out to the people in Nhlanhla.
Hey, Commander's Morning. Sure.
Nhlanhla Parliament. Hi.
Sure. And
Nhlanhla falls under Gauteng.
Nhlanhla?
Yeah.
No, in Nhlanhla.
No, yes, in Nhlanhla.
No, but the municipality is...
Nhlanhla is under Bronkhorstspruit, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, let's check it out.
A part of Bronkhorstspruit is what you call...
Oh, I see. It's like...
what you call Gauteng.
Yeah. So I know that there's
it's only that it is in the Ndebele community.
Yeah. So I know, like in Soweto, most of Soweto is Region C. Now this is demarcation that you are addressing. It's Region C. But we also have a little bit of Region D that forms part of Soweto. Okay. So we have some regions that are 50% Soweto and 50% outside Soweto that fall under the West Rand. So I understand what you're saying. But the question still remains, what do we do outside Soweto? So outside Soweto, we help others form parliaments, give them the blueprint, help them, educate them on how to run these things, policy, structure, and how to get the job done the way we get the job done.
And then what would you say to somebody? Let's say somebody, Uwamash, and is watching this podcast.
Sure.
and feels like I think we need this parliament.
Sure, Kwamashu
Yeah,
Parliament.
yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah.
Let's get it done. Sure.
Kwamashu Parliament.
Yeah.
And how do they reach you?
Sure.
And you help them maybe establish their own parliament and stuff like that. And
Look.
that also could mean, at some point in time, I went to Kukuletu and I got lost to Nyanga and stuff like that.
Sure.
Even that far,
Yeah.
Kukuletu and
Sure.
Nyanga, there should be a Nyanga parliament.
There should be. Not only even in townships, there should be a Santon parliament.
There should be.
You know why? It gives people an opportunity to lead their communities because you know your problems better than anyone else. We can't wait for Superman to fly from the sky to come and save us. That's a bad type of thinking. We must condition our kids that for you to win, you have to get up and work hard for the win. No one is coming. Politicians and the system currently conditions you that relax will come and sort it out, but they never do. So whenever we are unhappy about something, we want to sing. We want to sing about poor Oliver Tambo, who's supposed to be resting in peace. Instead of you saying, how do I apply my mind to solve this problem? Singing is not going to solve any problem.
I also had a problem with this thing of chanting people with them as heroes. Yes, they play their role, but what are we doing today?
Thank you very much.
And now looking at what happened with Limpopo MEC, what would you like to say?
I'd like to say that that woman has more balls than most men. Take.
I love that. Okay.
Sure. And I'd like to say that that woman, if you just look at the situation for what it is and stop being biased, she has a responsibility, 3 responsibilities. First responsibility, that of being a South African mother, so she can speak as a mother. She has a responsibility of being an MEC. She can speak as an MEC, which is a politician. That has nothing to do with the medical field. You can quote me, and she has a third responsibility of speaking as a doctor. Now, when a person has that privilege of speaking 3 titles, you can come hit her with this one, she'll survive by saying, but I wasn't speaking as a doctor.
Yeah.
Because a lot of critics say, but doctors take an oath, look at this. It was on Twitter. Yes. According to this part of your oath, you say you must help anyone without question, but now you're questioning where they're coming from, why they're here. Yeah. She could say that I was acting as an MEC, which is political. Okay. And then she has jurisdiction to speak how she spoke. So I'm saying that instead of us trying to find the negative in people's statements, let's find how we can use that statement, learn from it so that we can all move forward. If the attitude can be corrected amongst us and everyone else, we won't even see that woman as a problem. We'd actually see her as a textbook that we read to liberate ourselves because she's a doctor, years of experience. She's a politician, years of experience. She's a mother, years of experience.
And she's a citizen.
And she's a South African citizen with years of experience. Yeah. So when you take all 4 and say that this is a ball of knowledge and experience, what can we learn from it instead of what can we identify as weaknesses out of it? Which is most of us what we are doing now.
Yeah, I saw a critic that said, good message but wrong audience.
And that's beautiful. That for me, that's beautiful. Because the audience right now is angry, it's upset, and it's borderlining xenophobia. Everything you say must be guarded. Yeah. Listen, we still have free people out here. Like myself, I'm a free man. I'll tell you as it is, and if I'm wrong, I apologize to you. But if I'm not wrong and I still believe in it, I stand behind it.
Do you ever worry about what foreigners perceive Nhlanhla Lux to be?
No.
You don't?
No.
In other words,
probably 10%, but 90% I don't. 9% is about the mission. What's the mission here?
Because remember, I think this is now my thinking. I am just speculating that perhaps foreigners think Nhlanhla Lux hates foreigners.
No, I love foreigners. I love foreigners. I have graves in Lesotho that on my mother's side of the family. How do I hate my ancestors? Because by definition, in today's time, they're foreigners to this country called South Africa.
Yeah, sure.
So my mind is not to reverse time. Mine is to work with what I have and move forward. Why must I go back? So I don't have a problem with foreigners. Some of my best mates are foreigners. Some of the people that I see every day and work with every day are foreigners. Who knows? Perhaps you probably a foreign doctor delivered you and I into this world, helping my mother.
Yeah, nobody knows.
All I know is Kopara. I'm saying right now. I'm not saying why is that the case. I'm saying right now.
Yeah.
Reality is that in Soweto, the biggest hospital probably in the continent is in Soweto.
Sure.
If I get an accident, there's a big chance that I'll go to Bara. Now it's a Nigerian doctor. So I must say, I'd rather die than this guy operate on me. I'm not short-sighted. That's why I'm leading the narrative that says that if Dudula wants to say that
Chase
all foreigners, then I can't be part of that. That's why I distance myself. Like no,
that's BS.
It's nonsense
Yeah.
to the maximum.
Sure.
So if there's a foreigner that thinks that Nhlanhla Lux hates foreigners, and they don't want to substantiate that with any fact, it's okay. It's their life. We have ignorant people in this world, South
Sure.
Africans or foreign, doesn't matter.
Sure.
But if you are fair with yourself, then you will judge Nhlanhla Lux based on his actions, not what you heard, because a lot of them are taking what they heard. Because if you listen to what I say and you look at what I do, there's no way where it's suggested that I hate all foreigners.
Wow. Well, in conclusion about Soweto, we love Soweto. Soweto is like the backbone of all townships. I mean, you understand?
Sure.
But I've been to Soweto. Also stayed there a little bit.
Sure.
Back then, before democracy.
Sure.
We were at White City.
Yeah.
Right?
Cancer. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I go to Soweto today, and the Soweto I knew then, Soweto is different, and somehow you can see some are striving, but some are still stagnant.
Sure.
In the very, very, very dire past.
Sure. And that is true because the people in Soweto were once the most united people in the continent at one stage. And that's why there's a big difference. Right now, we are amongst the most divided communities, but through Soweto Parliament and other people's efforts, similar, we're reviving it. And that's why you'll see, look like now, in what, less than 20 days time, we have something called the Soweto Olympics, where all communities are participating and we're reviving sports. Because what they did is, when you got there was no Nyaupe. When you lived in Soweto,
there was no Nyaupe.
So what they then did, they dropped Nyaupe into Soweto. Yeah. Now you've got people
in every township.
Yeah.
In every black.
Yeah, because that's 100%. So when they drop Nyaupe, we lose majority of the youth to drugs, sex, and rock and roll. They make nightlife more important than school life.
True.
They make so naturally human beings will gravitate towards nonsense because they're only presented with nonsense. But now we realize that the fight is against the systems. That's why we're building our own systems. I mean, when last did you hear any community having its own Olympics? Let me tell you the beauty of the Olympics. Whatever community that wins most points in competing athletics, 100 meters, soccer, netball, all the sporting codes in the Olympics that are in Soweto, they get to win R1 million that they can use to develop, to build a sports infrastructure in their own community.
Wow.
So this time next year, the community that wins the Olympics will have a hockey field or a proper rugby field. And it's all because of the new systems. It's there. We've made it available. The systems we've created, designed, they come with what I'm presenting. And that's why you're seeing more sports, young people participating in sports, because they all want to be the Usain Bolt and win the 100 meters, because it comes with pride, not only personal pride, but I can point out something in the community to say that this was built because me and my guys won the Soweto Olympics, and that's why you've got a stadium in the community.
Wow. That's it. Thank you very much. I believe this video is going to have a long lifespan, more than you and I.
Sure.
After you're gone.
Sure.
What message would you like to leave?
Look, the message I want to let the young people in the next 100 years, 200 years, 500 years, when both these legends are gone, is that it doesn't matter what Nhlanhla Lux said in his time. Yeah. It really doesn't matter what Nhlanhla Lux said. What matters is what you say. What matters is what you do. Don't come singing songs about, hey, Nhlanhla Lux, I want to rest in peace, I'm gone. Sing songs about yourselves and the leaders of your time. Make sure that you give them enough opportunity to make a difference. Give them the ear that you thought that perhaps Nhlanhla Lux would be speaking better. If you thought the stage is for Lux, it's not for Lux. Lux is saying it. It's for the person of your time. It's for you that is listening. In your own personal space, you make the difference. Start making the difference at home, in your community, and ultimately the country will fall into place. My last point is, you do not leave your community to try save South Africa. If you think that it's time for you to make a difference in the country, make it in your community. And if we all do the same, then our communities are like a piece of a puzzle, then South Africa falls into place. There is no way you leave your community and go save the country. It's impossible. That's it.
Well, that was Nhlanhla Lux, and thank you for watching the Wednesday show, and we're looking forward to more parliaments across the country. And what I like is Nhlanhla Lux says they are operating outside the political system.
Yeah.
Please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and give us your comment. Thank you very much.